Hello, all you beautiful people out there. If you're new, thank you for clicking on this video. I hope you enjoy it and click the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when I come out with new episodes. For my fans and subscribers, I love you guys. You know you are the lifeblood of this channel. Today's topic, the Babylonian Destruction of 586 BCE. Seal and seal impressions reflect religious beliefs, especially when it comes to Theophoric or bearing the name of a god names. More than 3,000 are known from the Iron Age, particularly in Judah. From these, we can conclude several things. By the 7th century, almost all iconography had disappeared. The names are overwhelmingly Yahwistic. Those that specify activity mainly deal with divine mercy. Albertz concluded after much analysis that Hebrew names lack references to the supposed national history of Israel from the Pentateuch. At one time, biblical scholars thought that the lack of Egyptian and Phoenician iconography in this century meant that Josiah's reforms had been successful. Yet it is within this very time frame that Judahite figurines proliferate. At the very least, this indicates religious pluralism. Several more conclusions can be drawn from the analysis of these seals. First, despite what the Bible claims, there is no evidence that pre-exilic Judah was monotheistic. Second, an official Israelite religion is absent from both biblical and epigraphic names. When I say an official religion in Israel, I am talking about a state-sponsored religion. Finally, family religion in Israel followed the same basic structure found throughout the Levant. We find a number of household shrines dating to the 8th to 7th century BCE. The bottom line is, there was a mile-wide difference between the religion the Torah set forth, with the privileged few who wrote it, and that of the ordinary people. We have found relatively few cultic items relegated to small corners of private houses, and no real clues as to their intended use. It is reasonable to assume that these items were used in family rituals like venerating ancestors, but absolute certainty is impossible. Neither can we be sure of the deities being invoked, but the presence of Asherah figurines suggests more than one deity in the popular religion. Under Assyrian rule, Judah developed into a multicultural society and economy. Languages at this time included Akkadian, West Semitic Hebrew, and Aramaic. The majority of ostraka found in Judah at this time are in Hebrew, suggesting that this was the main language in the heartland. At other locations, we can clearly see full Edomite cultures at two 7th century Judahite sites. Such incursions could only be possible under the Assyrian policy of pacification. The Assyrians fostered this integration, the first time such multiculturalism entered Israelite Judahite history. This had huge implications upon the self-identity of the Israelites. However, such a crisis can stimulate creativity. A more robust definition of a people's ethnicity is often driven by encounters with different cultures, forcing distinctions between us versus them. Scholars think that the pan-Israelite identity in the Deuteronomistic history, which belongs to this horizon, can be best understood in this cultural context. Sennacherib ruled Assyria from 705 to 681. The Assyrians had the dual goals of controlling the lucrative trade of the Levantine coast, as well as to reduce Egyptian control. He spent his last years campaigning against the 25th dynasty of the Egyptian pharaohs. His son Esarhaddon (681 to 669) renewed the fighting, then moved on to Sidon and Tyre in 677. He tried to invade Egypt in 674, but he was beaten back. In 669, he died on the way to renew the campaign. Assurbanipal finally succeeded in 664–663 BCE and installed Psammetichus as a puppet ruler. He seemed on the verge of stabilizing the entire Mediterranean, but in 656 the Egyptians expelled the Assyrians and the 26th dynasty was established in Egypt. About 10 years later, the Babylonian Elamites rebelled, which started the downfall of the Assyrian Empire. By 644–643 BCE, Assurbanipal was fighting off armies from the southern Arabian Peninsula. Between 614 and 610, the Babylonians, with the help from the Medes, took Assur. However, Nabopolassar never controlled all of Mesopotamia, and the Pax Syriaca, which had stabilized the geopolitical arena, ended. Egypt invaded Judah in 609, but Nebuchadnezzar later invaded the small kingdom in 607, installing a puppet king. Jerusalem fell in 586 and was destroyed. The siege of Jerusalem lasted about 18 months. When the walls were breached, King Zedekiah and his army ran away. The palace and temple were burned to the ground, and the city was looted. Most of the wealthy were deported, while the poor were left behind. Wow, the army and the king sure were brave. The Babylonian Chronicle only notes the invasion of 598–597 BCE, while the Deuteronomistic history only recounts the final destruction of Jerusalem in 587. Only archaeological evidence can fill in the gaps. Recent excavations shed light on the destruction. A deep layer of ash covered Avagad's defense tower, and houses in areas E and G were burned. In the rubble were found pottery, stone, and metal vessels, and the aforementioned bully. The number of arrowheads found attest to the fierceness of this battle. Most Judahite forts built after the 732–721 destructions were destroyed in 586. Those that remained were deserted. In addition, Nebuchadnezzar had devastated Philistine sites slightly earlier, around 604 BCE. Transjordanian sites experienced little to no destruction in the late 7th to early 6th centuries. Ammonite, Edomite, and Moabite sites appeared to be untouched until the 5th century, but the 586 destruction was devastating for Judah. And that brings us up to the destruction of Jerusalem in 587, 586 BCE, not 607. And this series will continue into the exile and the Persian and Roman eras. However, for the time being, I will leave off this series and give you time to digest the true history of Israel, not the fake history that the Bible wants you to think about. Please consider becoming a member of this channel. You will get perks like custom emojis and a cool badge next to your name, as well as cool content just for members. Keep learning and searching for truth. Here are a few videos from my library. If you have not watched them, go ahead and watch them and tell me what you think. Until next time, friends, stay safe and goodbye.